My dad slid the paper across the Christmas dinner table and said, "You want to look at that before dessert?" I thought it was a joke until I read the number printed in bold. $8, 400. Your share of the family vacation we're planning. I looked up at him, waiting for a smile that never came. The room was still glowing with Christmas lights, my mother pouring wine like nothing unusual had just happened. "Is this serious?" I asked, my voice lower than I expected. My dad leaned back in his chair, completely calm. "Of course it is, Ethan," he said. "You're an adult now. You contribute." The word contribute landed heavier than the number. Because this wasn't just about money. This felt like something else. Something deeper. Something that had been building for years without me realizing it. Let me ask you something. If your father handed you a bill on Christmas Day, would you laugh it off, or would something inside you start to crack? Because that's exactly what I felt. Not anger at first. Not even shock. Just a quiet crack somewhere in my chest. My name is Ethan Calloway. I grew up in a quiet, manicured neighborhood in Greenwich, Connecticut, where everything looked perfect from the outside. My dad, Richard Calloway, was the kind of man people respected the second he walked into a room. Sharp suits, controlled tone, always right. My mom, Victoria Calloway, moved through life like everything was already handled. She smiled often, but it never quite reached her eyes. And then there was me, the only son, the one who was always almost what they wanted, almost successful enough, almost decisive enough, almost like my father. That bill sitting in front of me felt like confirmation of something I'd always sensed but never had proof of. I wasn't part of this family the way I thought I was. I was an obligation, a cost. Where exactly is this vacation? I asked, forcing myself to stay calm. My mom answered this time. "Aspen," she said lightly. "A 2-week stay. Skiing, private lodge, the usual." The usual. As if $8,400 was just a routine expense I should casually accept. "I didn't agree to this," I said. My dad didn't even blink. "You're invited," he said. "And this is your share. Not we'd love for you to come. Not we'll cover it this year. Just a transaction. Just a number." Something shifted inside me right then. Because it wasn't about the money. I could afford it. Barely, but I could. It was about the way he said it. Like I was no longer his son. Like I was a client. Or worse, a liability. Dinner continued like nothing had happened. My younger sister, Claire Calloway, kept talking about ski outfits and spa bookings. She hadn't been handed a bill. Of course she hadn't. She was still the baby, still protected, still theirs. I sat there quietly, folding the paper once, then twice, then slipping it into my jacket pocket. No one asked how I felt. No one needed to. They already knew. Or maybe they didn't care. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in my head. The tone, the timing, the message. Because handing someone a bill on Christmas Day isn't just about money. It's about power. It's about drawing a line. And for the first time in my life, I realized my dad wasn't just setting expectations. He was testing something. Testing me. The next morning, I called him. "I'm not paying it," I said. There was a pause on the other end. Then a quiet exhale. "I figured you might say that," he replied. "Then I won't be coming," I added. Another pause. Longer this time. "Your choice," he said. "No emotion. No persuasión. Just acceptance." And somehow, that hurt more than anything else. Days passed. Then weeks. The house felt different every time I visited. More distant. More transactional. Conversations were shorter. Colder. Like we were all silently agreeing to something that had already been decided. Then came the twist I never saw coming. 3 weeks before the trip, I got a call from Claire. "Ethan," she said, her voice shaky. "You need to come over." Something in her tone made my stomach drop. When I arrived, my mom was sitting on the couch, her posture rigid. My dad stood by the window, hands behind his back. No one spoke for a few seconds. Then my mom finally said it. "Your father has decided to sell the house." I blinked. "What?" "He's restructuring everything," she continued. "Investments, properties, all of it." I looked at my dad. "This house?" I asked. "The one we grew up in?" He nodded. "It's inefficient," he said. Efficient. That word again. Like everything in life had to be justified by numbers. "Why now?" I asked. And that's when he said something that changed everything. "Because I'm done carrying people who don't pull their weight." The words hit harder than the bill ever could, because suddenly it all made sense. The bill wasn't about a vacation. It was a test, a line drawn in the sand, and I had failed it. Let me ask you something. If your own father reduced your place in the family to pulling your weight, would you fight to prove yourself or walk away entirely? I stood there, staring at him, seeing him clearly for the first time, not as a father, but as a man who believed everything had a cost, even love, even family. I'm not part of your balance sheet, I said quietly. He didn't respond, because he didn't need to. His silence said everything. That was the moment something inside me settled. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I walked out of that house without another word. Not dramatically, not loudly, just done. Weeks later, Christmas decorations were gone. The house was listed, and the family vacation happened without me. I saw the photos online. Perfect smiles, snow-covered mountains. Everything looked exactly the same as it always had, except I wasn't in any of them. And for the first time in my life, that didn't bother me, because something had shifted, not in them, but in me. I stopped trying to earn my place in a family that treated love like a transaction. I stopped measuring myself against expectations that were never truly about me. And slowly, quietly, I started building something different, something real, a life where presence wasn't built, where connection wasn't conditional, where being there didn't come with a price tag. Months later, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, from my dad. Inside was a single sentence. No one else said no. I read it twice, then folded it carefully, because for the first time, I understood exactly what that meant. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to respond, because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not pay the price someone else assigns to your worth. What's your personal reflection? Would you have paid the $8,400 to stay part of the family, or walked away like Ethan did?